Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show. And you join me for a Let's Talk Arsenal kind of extra episode, if you like. We did the Renato Sanchez video about an hour ago. I was joined by Jeremy Smith to break down the Portuguese midfielder and get kind of that inside info about kind of what's been going on. So if you haven't checked that one out already, please make sure you do. But one of the main things that happened during that show was pretty much a lot of people asking questions about lots of different topics. And so therefore, we've decided, or rather I've decided, I say we a lot because I talk about the channel as kind of a collective thing, not just me. But I've decided that I thought it'd be a good idea for just jump on for half an hour before the Euro game starts between Denmark and the Czech Republic. Try and really answer some of the questions that you guys were really throwing into the chat box about Arsenal's transfer situation. So if you do have a question, throw it into the chat and we'll try and answer as many as we can in 30 minutes. That's the plan. That's what we're going to try and do. So let's see if we can go through as many of them as possible. Arjit has already joined us. So actually, Arjit, you joined us the other day in one of our phone-in shows yesterday. If you'd like to be part of that, then make sure you send us a DM at the Gooner Talk TV and we'll try and get you on the next one next Friday. Fingers crossed. But Arjit says, hello, Tom. So where is the Renato Sanchez news coming from? What is the source? Well, the main source that is obviously broken today is that L'Équipe, the French outlet, has said that Arsenal are, in quotes, very interested in Renato Sanchez. And the figures that have been previously reported that Lille would be looking for is around the 35 million euro mark. Now, we talked about this on the show. And I think that, to be honest, based upon what we've read and what we've seen, what we've heard now from the experts that have seen him, is that it wouldn't specifically or really be the best deal for Arsenal to do. He's not particularly a massive upgrade on what we've got. He's arguably not better than Granit Xhaka and what he gave us last season, especially in regards to passing and progression of the ball. He isn't going to give you more than what Granit Xhaka gave. And to be honest, I want an upgrade on Granit Xhaka. I want someone that's going to come in and really improve our midfield. And I don't think the Renato Sanchez is that player. Could he be in the future? Maybe, but it's not a summer window for me to take risks. That's the situation that we find ourselves in so far. Rampur says, what is the future of Lacazette? Effectively, we don't really know too much about Lacazette's future right now. There are little whispers here and there. You may have seen the Transfer Window podcast talking about the fact that Arsenal are very interested in kind of moving him off their books and selling him this summer. He doesn't look like he's going to be signing a new deal. That doesn't look like that's something that's going to happen this window, which is obviously a bit of a shame in some senses, because I think that if Arsenal are going to focus on a position this window, it wasn't really going to be striker. And so giving him kind of that year extension would have made a lot of sense, and we would have then been able to protect his value, sell him next year, or maybe even sell him this year to get an extra amount of money for him. But it's pretty uncertain is the future of Alexandre Lacazette. If we do sell him, we definitely do need to kind of reinvest in that area, because we can't be looking at Aubameyang and then obviously Balogun or Nketiah, if he stays, as the only real options for this summer. So Arsenal need to get their finger out, I suppose is the right way to put it, and really kind of sort this situation out, because it is one that is seemingly going to linger. Sam LA says, Locatelli most likely going to Juventus. Basuma isn't the type of midfielder Arteta wants next to Parte. Who would you realistically choose apart from those two? I think there are a number of options that Arsenal can obviously go for. It depends on the budget, is the first thing we need to think about, is how much money is actually available. I like the profile of Ruben Neves. I think he's a very good player. I think he gives a lot to the midfield in regards to his passing, in terms of how he controls the ball and the tempo of the game as well. All of that is really, really important. I think that Neves would certainly be able to add to our midfield if he was to come into the club. You've also got players like Sabitzer that have played a lot as a number 8 this season and would give you a lot going forwards as well. So I think Sabitzer is another option that Arsenal could look and consider. Mikel Moreno from Real Sociedad is another good option too, and Fabian from Napoli, who's obviously been playing at the Euros this summer. They're all options that Arsenal could possibly go for. I am planning on doing a video of 10 alternatives to Granit Xhaka this summer. That should be coming out in the next 7 days or so. So make sure you do tune in for that one. Indanil says, not a question, but have been a busy and super excited to be back tuning into your show, Tom. Thank you ever so much, Indanil, for tuning in. Really appreciate the support as always. Robin says, afternoon, Tom. Hope you're well. Renato Sanchez or Locatelli to replace Xhaka. Big up from Sweden. If you were to choose between the two, mate, obviously I would go for Locatelli. I think he's the obvious choice. Much, much better player than Renato Sanchez. A lot more developed, a lot more established, much more kind of what Arsenal need to improve that position next to Parte, definitely. Rampur said, who is going to be our backup goalkeeper next season? I think when it comes down to kind of backup keepers, there's been some names that have been banded around. What we do seem to know right now is that Arsenal want a homegrown player. They want a player that's obviously English-based or just has that homegrown aspect of their profile. Freddie Woodman is probably the cheapest option to players that you could look at. Alex McCarthy from Southampton is another one. You've got Aaron Ramsdale, of course, that we've been linked with quite a lot recently, but I think he's quite expensive. That is certainly a player that I would be looking to go and get. Stephen Andrews says, question, Tom, if Arsenal sign Locatelli, White and Maddison on top of Lokonga and Tavares, do you think that would be enough to get top 4 next season? Stephen, if that was the window, it would be incredible. You've got your backup left back, your backup central midfielder. You've got Locatelli, your central midfielder. You've got Maddison coming in. You've got Lokonga, your main midfielder, coming in. You've got a centre-back. The only position that isn't covered, Stephen, in your list there is a backup goalkeeper. Do I trust Runnison to be the backup to Bernd Leno? Bernd Leno gets a serious injury and is out for a significant amount of time, which can happen or get suspended. I'm not faithful in Runnison. So I don't think still that would be enough, because I genuinely believe if he was to get injured, it would really derail Arsenal's hopes if it was Runnison moving into that position. So I do think that we actually need to think about that more carefully, and a backup keeper would tip it over. If it was to get a backup keeper on top of that, Stephen, then I think that Arsenal got a really good chance. Robin says, afternoon, Tom. We've already answered that one, but big up again, Robin from Sweden, always. Greg Samuel says, what is the latest on Frank Kessie? There were some links to Kessie, the Ivorian midfielder from AC Milan. They've gone pretty quiet. It was a very loose link that came out of Italy. Nothing has really been solidified after that. There's been no links from the English media so far, nothing legitimate, so I wouldn't get too excited about that one whatsoever. Michael says, missing a right back, but we are very well stocked in the right back area. I liked what we got from Chambers last season. I still want to see us upgrade in that position, don't get me wrong, but based upon all those other signings, I think that would be more than enough to get it done. Yusuf says, weird question, but who would you swap Emile Smith-Rowe for Grealish or even James Maddison? I wouldn't swap him for James Maddison. I don't think that's enough of kind of a swap deal, but I definitely would swap Emile Smith-Rowe for Jack Grealish without a shadow of a doubt. No problem at all. Jack Grealish is like just on different levels right now. That is a no-brainer for me. Absolute no-brainer. Omar says, I've seen lots of people say that Arteta is right in his Celiba judgment and that he isn't ready to play in the first team. My question is, how do we know that he is ready if we've never seen him play? Obviously, it's very difficult, Omar, to make a judgment of whether Celiba is ready. And that's why I'm really disappointed that he's not going to be going on loan to a Premier League club, it seems, because we're not going to know whether or not Saliba's ready playing for Marseille for a whole season. What I would say is that he's had 3 seasons so far. He had 6 months on loan at Nice last season, played more games in that single season at Nice than he had done in his previous season at Saint-Etienne, and obviously the season before that as well. He played like 12 in the first, so he played 16 in the first one, 12 in the second one, and now 20 at Nice. It's just, he needs a regular season. He needs a whole season full of games. And if that's going to be at Marseille, then so be it. I wish it was at a Premier League team, but I actually think that the loan situation, sending him out on loan for another season, if you ignore all of kind of the chaos, if you ignore the contract situation, the loan makes sense, but we do need to extend his deal. We do need to tie that deal down for the long term. And supposedly Arsenal still do see him in their long-term plans, but that could just be talk at this stage. Alex R says, I heard that Arsenal are interested in Bolo. Is this true? I'd be very surprised if that is the case. I don't think he is at the level that Arsenal need right now. No Sleep says Bruno Guimaraes. Yes, 100% all day. Great centre midfielder. Not sure he'd leave Lyon after a single season, though. Jashar says, Tom, what happened to a signing Matt Ryan? Very quiet at the moment. Celtic signed or appointed the former Australia coach, so there's been some strong links with Matt Ryan maybe going to Australia. That could be a deal that maybe gets done. Keith Kim says, has Messi signed for Barca? I think he could do well at Arsenal. Yeah, I mean, I've heard of him. I think he's a decent talent that's out there. I think he will end up signing for Barca. So don't get your hopes up about an Arsenal move, that is for sure. Let's scroll down and get some more questions. Glenn Cook, thank you everyone, by the way, that's tuning in for our Q&A, our spontaneous Q&A. Please drop a like on the video to show your appreciation for the content that's coming through your airways every single day. Glenn Cook says, what do you think about Celiba's mentality? He chose to go back to the league that he's comfortably done well in, instead of challenging himself by choosing a Premier League team. That's out of his comfort zone. I do have questions about his kind of the mindset is probably the right way to go. Mentality is a big word, but I do have questions about it. If he chose his comfort zone, that's a shame. I feel like the club should have pushed a Premier League move more seriously. We don't know, obviously, what went on behind the scenes, of course, and we can only make assumptions. But I'm disappointed that he's chosen a Liga, a club, rather than going to a Premier League club. And yeah, there are questions about his decision making, if that was indeed if that is indeed the truth. Sam Chester says, Tom, what learning should Arteta have taken from this season? What are the key things that you want to see him do differently? Really good question. I want to see him ultimately try and judge situations better. I want him to look at situations like playing Willian for too long, or not giving Pepe enough games in a row to really shine, or not giving Martinelli an opportunity. See the areas where things went wrong. See the areas where he's made mistakes and learn from them. That's really key. I also want to see him have some consistency in his squad. I want to see him identify his best team and have a consistent 11 that plays week in, week out. And then obviously you can rotate one or two players in there maybe. But I don't want to see drastic changes, especially across a Premier League season where we aren't in Europe. And so we can really kind of build up momentum with the lineups that we use. So I want to see a consistent 11 used in his team this season, so we could build up partnerships, build up chemistry within the squad. And I want to see him make a definitive style. I want to see a style that's actually evident on the pitch and that we're not guessing week in, week out what it is. That's what I want to see from Arteta next season. Vignesh says, hi, Tom. If we sign Lacazette, I can genuinely see him getting homesick and not gel with the rest of the squad. Why, Vignesh? I want to know why. Tell me why you think that. Tom says, Tom, are you excited about the Black Widow Marvel movie? Yes, of course. I'm a Marvel head. I'd love it. Wilson says, do you think that Arteta is treating some of the young players unfairly? I struggle with this one because Nelson doesn't get in the team. Balogun, of course, has got Lacazette and Aubameyang ahead of him. Should have been given more chances, I still feel. And Nketiah's got to go. Guendouzi deserves to go. Celiba was handled really poorly at the start of the 2020-21 season. But now I think alone is the right move. I just don't think Premier League is. I don't think the going back to Liga is the right move. He's given time to Smith Rowe. I don't buy into the whole we got lucky with Smith Rowe. It's a joke. Like, he signed a number 10 in Erdegaard and played both of them together. He was that intent on getting Smith Rowe into the team, even though he brought in a number 10, and he could have played Joe Willock or played Saka at 10 against Chelsea. He made the decision to play Smith Rowe there. So I don't buy into that. And that's coming from someone that thought Arteta should have been sacked last season. So, and Saka, of course, and Smith Rowe have both improved under him. So I don't get that kind of argument. I don't think he's amazing at developing youngsters, and I don't think he's perfect at developing youngsters. I think he needs to improve with how he does it. But what top teams are playing more than 21 sub-21 players like in their teams? There's barely any. Like, I'm not trying to think of many that are playing any more than 21 and under players in the big teams pushing for those high European places. Chelsea aren't. I mean, City aren't. City have got Foden. I mean, who else are they playing that's 21 and under? It's max 2. And so Smith Rowe and Saka, and then you put them in, and then you've got a 22-year-old Gabriel at the time. You had a 23-year-old Tierney last season. So it's a strange one. It's a strange one as to why there's such an intent to see more than just 21 and under players, when really the teams that are going for those top qualification spots are not using more than 21 and under players. It unbalances things. It puts a lot of pressure on young kids to be the difference, and ultimately we need more experienced players, and we need to look to bring in to kind of the 23 to 25-year-old bracket to add that more kind of clear cut and potential into the team that can make an impact almost immediately. Keto says, now that Willian is leaving, do you think Arteta will keep giving him crazy playtime like last season? Well, I mean, he isn't leaving. We don't know. He still might go. That move to Inter Miami has seemingly fallen through. We'll see if he actually ends up going or not. Wilson says, do you think that buying a defensive midfielder would allow Parte to go further forwards. Yeah, 100%. I think Partey's best when he's in transitioning the ball, progressing the ball forwards up the pitch. And I think that should certainly be an area of his game that we try and emphasise as much as feasibly possible. Kieran says, seeing other teams are looking at Ben White, do you think we will get this one done, Tom? Starting to panic at the lack of urgency to push deals over the line. I know he's at the Euros, but so is Sancho. Agreeing a deal with a team when the player is at the Euros, some players want to focus on their futures after the Euros, like Lacazette. Sancho wanted to get the deal done as much as possible. So I'll be very frustrated if we don't get the Ben White deal done, because it will be a really big hit after the whole Buendia fiasco. So, yeah, I would be really disappointed if we don't get Ben White done. Am I worried? A little bit. I mean, it's growing, it's festering. Man City and Liverpool are sniffing around. Everton have obviously, apparently, if those links are true, and we don't know if they are, have entered the race. But I'm still, a 7 out of 10 confident that this deal should get done. Sam Trester says, please smash a like, people. I think we all know the effort Tom puts in. It's such a simple way to show your appreciation. Thanks, Sam. Really appreciate the support, as always, mate. Top legend. K-Man says, what are the odds of Locatelli joining us instead of Juve? 5%? 5% as a push, I'd say. Robin says, do you believe the 250 million transfer budget is true? No, Robin, I don't. There is not an outlet out there that knows Arsenal's transfer budget. Not one. No one knows Arsenal's transfer budget. It's just a story. It's just a story that they know that people are going to click. They know that people are going to read it. You cannot know Arsenal's transfer budget. The only people that know Arsenal's transfer budget is the executives. And why would they leak it? Why on earth would they want the media knowing how much money they've got to spend? Because it all immediately increases the price of players. Immediately. So it makes no sense. So no, be very kind of wary about that. Be very wary about reading stories of how much money Arsenal got to spend, because it is never, ever true. Rich Cosford says, hey, Tom, I would prefer Bissouma over Locatelli. Yes, Locatelli is better, but also, like, Xhaka came from a slower league, more time on the ball, and I'm scared it'll be a Xhaka 2.0. If that was the case, Rich, then obviously that means you're writing off every player that comes from any league that's slower than the Premier League, which is all of them. I wouldn't just pick a player just because they're playing the Premier League. You do need to look at them statistically. You need to see how they compare. You need to look at the styles. You need to look at their development, where they are internationally, how are they playing. He's worked extremely well on the international stage as well as playing for Sassuolo. So I really genuinely wouldn't buy too much into that side of things on this specific transfer. And I do agree with you that I think Arsenal need to target more Premier League-based players, but that doesn't mean you target all Premier League-based players. Thoughts on João Paulinho, says Jonathan. Obviously, Sporting Lisbon, Portuguese, central midfielder, can play as number 6. And typically does. He's a bit of a bruiser in the midfield. I like him. I think he's had a good season at Sporting Lisbon last year. But is he the right man for Arsenal? Maybe if we want a number 6, if we plan on playing with a single number 6 and a 4-3-3, maybe he is the right guy. But I don't know how much Sporting would want for him, and they tend to want quite a bit of money for their players. So maybe we'd have to overpay for that one. Exactly, Tom is very. What was that? If he says exactly, Tom is very intelligent. Pace isn't everything. It certainly isn't. James Rose says, where do Arsenal need to be by the end of October for Arsenal to keep his cob? I love. If you're up north, you know what the word means. It's spelled differently, but I know what you mean, James. Where does he need to be in October to keep his job? Honestly, James, I don't think it matters. I think he keeps his job no matter what. I can't see the club sacking him. In my mind, he has to be challenging for the top 4 by October. Absolutely. He has to be in and around. He has to be within the points, if not in it, in my mind. Because that's the target. And if we're not there by October, I'm worried. Very, very worried. So, but I still don't think the club would get rid. Even if we were like 6, 7, 8 points off the top 4, I really don't think they would get rid of him. So it's not down to me. And it's a shame because I don't think the club would act quickly enough. We will see. Iceman says, hi, Tom. Sabitzer would be perfect for Arsenal. His versatility is exactly what we need. So much for Arsenal's plan for the summer. Yeah, we'll see what happens, Iceman. Arun says, we need a metronome, not a destroyer, Tom. Who would you prefer to be in the middle? Locatelli is obviously my prime choice for central midfield. Absolutely. Sam Chester says, Tom, have players' prices gotten out of control? It seems to have gone from experience and talent base to just absolutely made up figures at times. Is it out of control? Maybe, but contextually with the amount of money that's in the game now, it does make sense for how much money players are going for. That's how much money clubs have. So naturally, if you have more money to spend, the price of things goes up. It's inflation. It's just how it works. So I don't think they're out of control. I just think they're just, it goes in line with how much money is available to clubs at the moment. I get what you mean about certain players going for ridiculous fees. We've seen that. I mean, Richarlison's £100 million bid from Barcelona. That's money gone mad. But yeah, I'm not sure. And by the way, Everton are mad for not accepting that £100 million bid. Absolutely mental for not accepting that. Greg says, hi, Tom. I heard Arsenal is lining up Rangers captain James Tavernier as a possible replacement for Bellerin. What's your thoughts on that? Yeah, I saw that link too. I don't know how legit it is. I wouldn't personally go for it. 29 is not the age profile I'd go for a right back, to be honest. Obviously, he spent a long time in Scotland. I know that Kieran Tierney has come through and done really well there, and I get that. But I just feel like he's found his level at 29 playing in the Scottish Premiership, and I'm not sure for an Arsenal level player that would be the right move. I think for a club his former club Newcastle, for instance, that'd be a decent move, but I don't think Arsenal is the right team. I think there's a lot of hype around a player like Renato Sanchez as well, that kind of FIFA hyped in Tavernier and Sanchez. So not for me, not the player I'd go for. Akash says, who do you think we will buy at number 10 and at defensive midfield? Honestly, the number 10s, we haven't seen any real links of late to a legit source of a player. Madison's very, very quiet. There was only real interest in that one, not necessarily any kind of bid going in on Madison. And the number 6 position, there's been no out-and-out number 6s really linked. It's just been kind of central midfielders at this stage. So who do I think? I can't really answer your question, I'm afraid, Akash, because I just don't think there is enough legit links so far to have a real opinion on that position. At central midfield, I feel like Locatelli is very much a high up on their list, and they're waiting to see what happens with Juventus. But it's a difficult deal because he seems to want to go to Juve, from what we're told by the reports. But we'll have to wait and see. Let's scroll down and get some more of your more recent questions. Amandeep says, with Vieira taking over, Celiba to Palace would have made a huge win-win. I mean, people are obviously associating the fact that Vieira used to play for us, so we're going to send players there. I don't necessarily buy into that. I don't think there's as strong of a link as people are making out. But, Palace would be a good move for him. I think that'd be a really good year on loan, give him a lot of experience. So why not send him there? But he's obviously seemingly going to Marseille, from the looks of things anyway. Sahil says, Tom, is this fair playing Fofana? Leicester bottled the top 4 and right now are linked with Jonathan Tah. Looks like even Leicester might not play him that regularly next season. Look, Leicester are a team that are always going to look to improve upon the squad that they've got. They spent a lot of money on Wesley Fofana. If they get Jonathan Tah, obviously it's a decent signing. I don't think he's necessarily kicked on at Bayer Leverkusen from a couple of years ago. But the thing about Fofana is that Fofana is a bit of a, what's the right word? He's a bit of an anomaly, to be honest. I mean, you don't typically see 19, 20-year-old centre-backs coming in and doing as well. He wouldn't have got the minutes if it weren't for their defensive crisis that they had. I don't think he would have been really getting minutes until maybe this season. If they're going for Tah, that's a strange one, considering... is it a strange one? I mean, it's not really. When you think about it, they've got Soonchu and they've got Fofana, and you've got Evans that's ageing, and then Wes Morgan that's now gone. So... maybe it's not so weird. They need to get depth, but why would Tah come in knowing he's going to be backup? So it's an interesting one. Neil says, hi, I live in New York and I'm an Arsenal fan for more than 30 years. Why most people put so much emphasis on Arteta getting fired and not the owner making the right amount of investment? Because I think Arteta's obviously made a lot of mistakes, a lot of poor decisions, and we've spent a lot of money. We spent like 561 million, wasn't it, between 2015 and 2019? Arsenal has spent money. It's just the way that it's been spent. But I think there's been a lot to do with obviously what happens on the pitch and that's for a longer period throughout the year that we're witnessing that. And it's just kind of this break of the transfer windows that we have when we kind of assess the financial situation. So yes, we need to invest, but I think that Arteta is a much more clear and obvious target because he's the manager. That's just how it works, really. Shay says, hey, Tom, if Celiba is off on loan, at least we now know 100% that White will be played at centre-back, not right-back. Do you think we'll sign a new right-back, as Chambers should be a cover at most? I think it depends on Bellerin's future, Shay. It very much looks like Bellerin's going to be leaving, and in that case, I would believe that Arsenal are going to be looking to bring in a right-back. But until the Bellerin situation is resolved, I don't think we'll see a move for that position. Based upon your first point, I agree. I think the fact that we're sending Celiba on loan, we're really kind of light in that area now, having lost Socrates and Mustafi and David Luiz and Mavropanos. It does make sense that Arsenal are going for a centre-back. It makes a lot more sense than it did do previously. So there you go. Joel B says, why are we not linked with Pereira from West Bromwich Albion? Absolutely no idea, Joel. I think he's a very good player. Premier League proven, scored goals in the Premier, 11 last season. Really good option. I don't know why we're not linked to him. Very interesting that you bring it up because I have no idea why we're not linked to him more. Some things go on behind the scenes and we just don't find out about them, so you never know. Danny, good to have in the chat, mate. Make sure you're checking out the Bergkamp Wonderland, by the way, people. Fantastic podcast, fantastic guests every single week when the season's on, so make sure you give them a like and a follow. Danny says, Arsenal are Arsenal, and that means it's a mess. It goes back to shopping trolley dash week when we bought Per Mertesacker, Arteta, Andre Santos, that guy, the Brazilian left-back from Fenerbahce that we brought in, and dozens of others in a panic. I hope that we aren't in that situation again, Danny, at the end of the window. I really do hope that's not the case, because it would be a real shame considering the fact we've had all this time to prepare. We were told that there was a plan, and that plan looks like it's kicking on, and they're getting towards some of their targets. Do I think that Nuno Tavares was their starting left-back option in their plan? I'd be very surprised if that was the case. But maybe it was Bertrand. Maybe they weren't happy with that situation. We don't know. But I think the plan has changed from when Arteta told us that was the case. Steve Stone says, what are your minimum requirements for this transfer window? Steve, backup goalkeeper, backup left-back, midfielder, backup midfielder, i.e. Lokonga, right back, attacking midfielder, and maybe a forward depending on who leaves. That's my minimum requirements. Oh, and Willian to leave, Xhaka to leave, Guendouzi to leave, a good loan for Celiba, and I don't really include Marseille in that. Torreira to leave, Nketiah to leave, Nelson to leave. Who else am I forgetting? I feel like I'm forgetting more. Maybe Lacazette, depending on that situation. Runnison to leave. Cedric to leave. Have I said Willian? It's worth saying is more than once. Willian to leave again. Kolasinac to leave. So there you go. There's my minimum requirements off the top of my head anyway. Caesar Discuss says, I don't rate him that highly, but looking at right-back Leipzig, Andre Silva for £90 million, how can those players be that cheap? It would have taken a punt at 25 million. I think it would have been more, to be honest, if Arsenal would have gone for Andre Silva. It's just the way it works in the continent. Players go for less money. It's just clubs know they can get more money from Premier League clubs. It's just how it works. Sahil says, Tom, thoughts on Boubacar Kamara with Guendouzi going to Marseille? Something could be done. I've not seen loads of him, Sahil, I'll be honest. I know he can play at defensive midfield and centre-back, but I've not seen enough of him to really comment. No, Steve, not much. Not much, mate. But unfortunately, that's what we need to do what we need to do, Steve. So that's why I'm that expectant. Kamal says, hi, Tom. Do you think the club's handling of the Celiba situation will lead to his valuation dropping to Guendouzi's, who was valued at 60 million in 2019? Obviously, things change a lot. Do I think the handling of it has been good? No, absolutely not. The handling of the Celiba situation has been awful. However, what I would say, Kamal, is that it would depend on how he does on his loan deal. If he has an amazing season for Marseille, of course, that valuation should go up. So we'll wait and see. Anyway, we have kicked off in the game between Denmark and the Czech Republic, so I'm going to go and watch that if you are watching this on playback. I hope you enjoyed the game. I hope you've enjoyed this spontaneous Q&A show. I wanted to address a lot of your questions because there was quite a few in the Renato Sanchez tactical breakdown. So I hope that you enjoyed it. If you have, please drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Please drop a like for the appreciation of the hard work that goes into putting on these shows for you guys every single day. I hope you enjoy this evening's events. I'm praying it's coming home. I'm praying. We'll see if the lads can do it. Fingers crossed they can. Sancho starting is a big bit of news. If that turns out to be the case, very much so. Fingers crossed. But yeah, it should be an absolute belter. And Arsenal, England getting into another semi-final of an international tournament. Really good. Oh, we've had a very last-minute super chat. Thank you ever so much. We've got one from Bell, who says, I feel we should have got on Luca Netz. I don't know who that is. And Sabitzer. No idea who that is. You'll have to let me know. No idea whatsoever. No idea. I'm trying to play that over in my head if that's a dodgy name. I can't think of it being one. Anyway, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you as always. I'll see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.